What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. So I'm getting a lot of questions. People are asking me about, well, what does the president have power to do? Because I posted a video a few days ago talking about presidential powers, and I was specifically talking about the fact that the president can't just sign over an executive order and give out stimulus checks. And so I started to have a lot of people asking me the question, well, what does the president have power to do? Why even be president if you don't have any power? So I decided to dedicate this video to talking about presidential power, what the president actually has power to do. So that's what we're going to focus on in this video. But first off, on this channel, we talk about financial news and what's going on in Washington, D.C. If that sounds like something interesting to you, please subscribe to the channel and hit that little bell notification. That way you'll get notified anytime we put out a video. And like always, if you see my name and a picture of me in the comment section, make sure you see a check mark next to my name. That check mark signifies that it's me. If you do not see that check mark, it's not me. It's someone trying to impersonate me. Okay, so first off, let me show you the source. So let's go over to the source here so you guys can see exactly where I'm pulling all this information from. And so here's the list here. We're going to go over this list, and I will talk exactly about every different thing that the president has power to do, and then some of the things that the president doesn't have power to do. Now, this is the Harry Truman archives. Okay, so this is a government website. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to the list of presidential power. So the first power that the president has, he can make treaties with approval of the Senate. Okay, now you're asking yourself, well, what is a treaty? What does that mean? So let's go over to Google and take a look at what a treaty is. The United States Constitution provides the president shall have power by and with the advice and consent of the Senate to make treaties, provided 2/3 of the senators present concur. Okay, Article 2, Section 2. Treaties are binding agreements between nations and become part of international law. So the president has the power, at least some power, to make treaties with other countries. So that's one of the powers that the president has. Number 2, he can veto bills and sign bills. Now, this is very, very important because we hear this a lot. Okay, well, what is the president's role when it comes to legislation? His role is to veto something or to sign it. He can sign it into law. So we saw with the stimulus packages, we saw with the infrastructure bill, he has the power to sign off. So he's the final signature. Now, let's say a bill comes across his desk that he doesn't like. Well, he can veto that bill, so he can say no to it. Now, even if he vetoes a bill, it can still go back to Congress and they can override his veto. So Congress still has the power to get legislation through. That is their main function. Okay, they are the legislative branch. Their main function is to create these bills. Okay, so that is a power. That's a very strong power that the president has, where he can just veto something, but Congress can still come back and override his veto if they see fit. But we know the division in our country right now when it comes to politicians, and we know just looking at it that would probably never happen, where we would have a president veto something and then have that overridden by Congress. It would have to be something really, really severe in order for them to do that. But they do have that power. Congress does have the power to override the presidential veto. Okay, so let's get to number 3 here. The president represents our nation in talks with foreign countries. And you see this all the time. You see the president meeting with different foreign dignitaries. That's his role. As a president, he's going to be the figurehead of the United States. So he'll be out there talking with these different politicians and different dignitaries in other countries. Okay, number 4, he has the power to enforce the laws that Congress passes. Okay, so Congress will legislate, they will create a bill, that bill gets approved in both the Senate and the House, and it goes to the president, he signs off on it, and then he enforces those laws, whatever those laws are. So the president has power to do that. So number 5, act as commander-in-chief during a war. So he is the go-to. So if we have a war, he is the one who will dictate how this war plays out. Of course, he has generals that will give him advice, but he's the final word when it comes to a situation where there's a war. However, the president doesn't declare war. Congress declares war, but the president can send troops at any time. So that's very, very important to know. A lot of people think, oh, the president, he's the one that's declaring war. No, it's actually Congress that has to declare war because they carry the purse. They have the money, and it costs money to go to war. Number 6, he can call out troops to protect our nation against attacks. So like I was saying, he can call out troops. He can't declare war, but he can call troops out. So if we're in a situation where we're being attacked, we don't have, like Congress, we don't have enough time to wait for Congress to to vote on declaring war. So the president has that power to just say, look, send troops here, send troops there. And then Congress can convene and then vote on going to war. But in most cases, the president is just going to send troops. That's usually what we'll see when they go to Afghanistan and all these different places. The president is just sending troops out there. And Congress is really they're not pushing back. They're actually funding it, but they're not actually declaring war. So that's generally what we see. Okay, number 7, he can make suggestions about things that should be in new laws. Okay, so we see this all the time. President talks about Build Back Better and all these different proposals. So he can make suggestions, but he is not a legislator. So he can, usually what happens is they will draft up a bill. So the White House will draft up like their version of the bill. They'll send it to Congress and hope that Congress can put a lot of what they want in this bill. But because the president is the leader of the party, and if that party happens to be in power at the time, then you will see, like in the House, like we're looking at a situation right now where the House is run by the Democrats, the president is run by a Democrat, and the Senate's run by a Democrat. So that means that when it comes to his plan, his proposals, he's letting the leaders of the House and the Senate know what he wants, and then they try to put that to paper and then try to get the bill passed. So that's generally how it works. But he will put his input in when it comes to the legislation that he wants to get passed. Okay, number 8, the president is the leader of their political party. Okay, so if you're in office, you are the leader of your party. So you're the leader of the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. So if you're the president, you are looked at as the leader. Okay, so people will go to you for endorsements and they will listen to you as far as the platform that you want to put forward. So that's pretty much how it works. Even former presidents, when we're looking at President Trump, he's still the leader of the Republican Party. We'll have to see if he runs in 2024 and he'll remain the leader. But if he decides not to, then they'll be looking for another leader when it comes to the Republican Party. And usually that will be that person that wins the primary. Then they'll become the leader. And if they win the presidency, then they continue being the leader of the Republican Party. And so that's usually how it goes when it comes to leadership. The president is the leader, the head of the party. Okay, number 9, he will entertain foreign guests. Okay, so we see this all the time. They'll have these galas and the president will invite people from other countries, leaders from other countries, and they will come in and he will entertain these foreign guests. So this happens all the time. I don't know how many different galas they have and things like that, but they'll do the formal galas and then they'll do just informal things, or a little more informal, where you'll see them just at the White House. They might have a press conference. They'll talk issues and talk about treaties and all that different stuff. So that's very, very common when it comes to the president. You'll see him always with these foreign dignitaries. Okay, number 10, he will recognize foreign countries. Now, I had to actually look this up because recognize countries, exactly what does that mean when you recognize a country? So let's go ahead over to Google and we'll take a look at what that means. The president decides whether to recognize new nations and new governments and negotiate treaties with other nations, which become binding on the United States when approved by 2/3 of the Senate. Okay, so, and that kind of goes along with the whole treaties and just recognizing countries. So that's basically what they're saying there. The president is when it comes to new countries or new governments, he will recognize them or can recognize them. That's a power that he has. Okay, number 11, he can grant pardons. Okay, and we see this with all presidents. Usually on their way out, they will grant pardons. So this is in all presidents. I won't say all presidents, but most presidents will do this. This is kind of a way for them to look at different situations and say, okay, I'm going to grant a pardon to this person for this reason, or grant a pardon to this person for that reason. We saw President Trump grant a lot of pardons right before he left. So that is a power that the president does have. Okay, number 12, he can nominate cabinet members and Supreme Court justices and other high officials. Okay, so we see this. We're seeing this now where the president has the opportunity to appoint a Supreme Court justice. So in the coming months, we're going to hear a name of the Supreme Court nominee, and then that Supreme Court nominee has to go through the Senate to be approved. But this is something, one of the powers that we all look for every time there's a Supreme Court justice vacancy. We're looking to the president to find out who is he going to select. And so this is a power that all presidents have. And so when they nominate a Supreme Court justice, they're nominating them. And if they get through the Senate, they're there for life. Okay, so this is a very, very big deal. And this is a very huge power that the president has. So number 13, he can appoint ambassadors. So you'll see this a lot where you'll have ambassadors in all these different countries. And that's his role. The president can appoint these different ambassadors. And a lot of times you see the president use this as a favor. So he'll say, you've been supporting me all these years, and so I'm going to appoint you ambassador to wherever. So that's generally how that works. So a lot of situations you'll have people that will go to different countries and there's no real tie to that country. There's no real reason why they're going there as an ambassador. But the only thing that they're doing is the president saying, okay, look, this person supported me, so I'm going to give them a job in the administration. So I'll make them an ambassador. And it's a good, it's a good thing to do. If you're an ambassador representing the United States in another country. And so this is a good way for the president to show thanks to people who have been supporting him for all these years. Okay, number 14, he can talk directly to the people about problems. So the president can call a press conference anytime he wants. He can address the American people anytime he wants, and it will be national news, and everyone will know about it. I mean, usually the major networks will pick it up. And so he has that power. So if there's something that he really wants to get through, he can always just call that press conference or call that address to the nation. So that's something very, very powerful, because you get the American people on your side, and then you can move things. And that's one of the talks right now when it comes to these different bills and proposals that the president wants to get through. He should be really addressing the American people and selling the American people on some of these different proposals. And that way you can get some support in Congress when it comes to moving forward. And then number 15, he can represent the best interests of all people. So, and this is kind of broad, but basically the president, he's there to represent the American people. I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican. And so he should be there listening to the American people and addressing their needs. And so that's one of the major powers that he has. He can listen to the people and try to get that stuff implemented through Congress, of course, because Congress has to legislate, but at least let Congress know the demands of the American people. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what the president cannot do. So the president can't make laws. He can't declare war. He can't decide how federal money will be spent. He can't interpret laws, and he can't choose cabinet members or Supreme Court justices without Senate approval. So those are some of the things that the president cannot do. And I do want to focus your attention on one thing here, because this is what people are talking a lot about here. So he can't decide how federal money will be spent. Okay, the president does not have the power to do that. And I've had people say, well, there's money left over. I heard there's $800 billion left over. Why can't he use that for stimulus checks? Because he can't decide how that money gets spent. So it has to still go back through Congress. So if there's money left over, Congress has to decide, okay, let's get stimulus checks ready and then send them out like that. So the president does not have the power when it comes to spending. He doesn't have the power to dictate where that money goes. It still has to go through Congress. And the information that I'm pulling here is coming from a government website. Okay, so they're telling you the president doesn't have the power to do that. And so in situations of an executive order, yes, he can do executive orders, but he can't spend money. He can't decide how that money gets spent. So he can only do an executive order if there's no spending that's involved. So if you guys have any other questions, please post them down below. Hope you guys like this video. It's a little different than what I normally do, but I want to get that message out to you guys just so you know exactly what are the powers that the president has. I will do one for Congress too, because Congress has certain powers that the president doesn't have. We talked about a few of them here, but we're going to go over a list of all the different powers that Congress has. And so I would also ask if you guys can share this video with your friends and family and really help them out. They might have questions when it comes to what the president can do, or they might be telling you, the president can do this, or the president can do that. Show them this video, and hopefully it will go over. I'll post a link to this website that I got all this information off, so you can check it out yourself. If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.